I wanted to ask you, what are the key items that you would advise media owners that are listening or viewing this episode about how they can really look to earn time, trust, and influence in those strategic conversations with senior agency personnel such as yourself? And if you've got any advice for them.
Sure. Well, from my perspective, it's when you're setting up an appointment to come and see, whether it's your client director or your strategist or whatever, don't lead with inventory, rather lead with business challenges. Get to know the business, that you're coming to talk about. Don't just give us your sales pitch. Let us know how you can partner with us, how you can help shape the brand, how you can help strategically answer the business challenges that the brand has.
Welcome back to the Beyond the Billboard podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe. Today, we are joined by a very senior media professional, Robert Notrica, the current regional client partner on Coca-Cola Africa at WPP Media. Today, we'll explore his expert opinion on the current state of the out-of-home medium, where it's winning, and where the challenges persist. Rob comes with a wealth of experience and understanding of the media landscape in SA and across the African continent. He has held senior leadership roles at large media agencies such as Karat, OMD, and Starcom, and has worked on an array of different clients from various client categories over his career spanning over 25 years. We're very privileged to have a senior media professional such as Robert joining us today on this episode to talk all about out-of-home. Rob, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Rob, to kick us off into this episode, a really exciting question, and it's a question I love to ask guests, is what campaign do you find has been the most impactful and effective out-of-home campaign that you've seen or executed yourself, and why? And you can share maybe one that you've seen globally, regionally, or locally, or perhaps a campaign that you have done yourself. You can share one of each if you would like, but it's really nice just to kick us into the episode to really showcase the power of out-of-home and how you've seen it play out.
So the campaign I worked on a while ago. And at the time, it was really seen as innovation, and that was for Emirates. It was a growing billboard. The whole billboard was activated, and we used plants that which would showcase the client's logo and the client's message. And this billboard grew over time. So it was forever changing, it was forever morphing, and it was a journey that the consumers could see when they were, driving past the billboard. It was actually really, really impactful. It was nominated for a few awards, not only locally, but also globally. And it's a campaign I'm actually quite proud of. It was the first time it was ever executed in South Africa. It took a lot of planning. We worked very, very closely with our media partners to ensure that it happened. The client was really, really pleased with the results at the time. And it's something, like I said, I'm very proud of, and something I still refer to quite often when I speak about out-of-home.
I remember seeing that. I never knew that you were behind it. That's amazing.
Yes.
I still see that innovation, and if I remember correctly, there was also like some red lights that were almost, I think, like markers of some kind for the Emirates brand, or
Yes,
maybe
their
some countries within the
destinations.
map.
Correct. It was for all their destinations that they travel to, etc., and so on. Yeah. So that's correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. It was the
Yes.
first green advertising or growing billboard that I had ever seen. So yeah, I remember seeing that, and yeah, like I said, I mean, we worked together for a number of years, and I didn't know you were the guy behind it. So yeah,
Yes.
I learned something
Well,
new today.
it was a whole team behind it, but yes, it's something that like I said, yeah, it was really, really cool to work on, and really something that was really innovative at the time, and a first to market. So it was really, really, really great.
I concur with Liv that it was actually the first that I'd ever seen in my career of a growing billboard. And I think it also kicked off more of the growing billboards to come, right? Since you guys did that, the years to come after that, there was more, sustainability or green out of home that happened in the landscape. And I think it's something we don't see as often as I think we should in our market. It definitely speaks to the power of out of home from a sustainability sustainability point of view and a green impact point of view. And I think it's just really, really nice that we have got these successful examples like the one you spoke about with Emirates, which was really successful and it award worthy, and I think we will link it and obviously link it in the post on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing.
What it kind of made me think of is, going back, Rob and I worked together at Dentsu. And when I joined the media industry, I was a media newbie. Before that, I was in the FMCG industry from a sales perspective. So everything in the media landscape was new to me. But what I really found when I joined the media industry was that the client service directors and the client service teams, they had this magic around them. In the agency, it was actually, to be honest, quite an intimidating presence because the client service directors and the client service teams work so closely with the client that they're hand in hand. They're the first people to know what the client is seeing, thinking, feeling, what they're wanting to do, whether it be across different media channels. They're the people who've got the inside track with the client on understanding the client would love to one day do something like this on out of home, or the client really loves to do something like this on TV or on social. And I always looked at the client service team with a bit of awe around, how do they do it? How are they doing this all? How do you manage everything? So many different moving pieces across the team, and also keep the team involved and engaged and delivering, as well as keeping the client happy from making sure you're ticking all those boxes. And it really came across as a relationship to me that takes a very strategic mind and a person who can juggle a million things, but also somebody who really understands clients' businesses very well and how to build those relationships. And quite quickly, yes, you might work on the same brand for a number of years, but you have to build that relationship as quickly as you can. And it kind of leads me to the question I wanted to ask you, Rob, was being in this position where you become almost like the client's right hand and you work closely with the clients. What have you seen the benefits of out of home and the benefits that the clients see that out of home brings them? I think we mentioned you've worked across a variety of different brands in the industry. There isn't probably a brand that you haven't worked on across media at some point. Before the episode, we were chatting around where you did some work on BlackBerry. So you've really worked on a whole lot of different brands. And I'd just love to hear from your experience and having that close relationship with the clients. What do you see as the benefits of out of home? And what have you heard clients speaking around why they want to do out of home?
Well, out of home for me and for a lot of the clients that I've worked on, it's really an important part of the mix, of the media mix, because it's an impactful medium. It's a medium that actually can give you that big brand feel, that can give you the frequency that you need. It also transcends languages, barriers, and it's a medium that you can position very tactically close to point of purchase. Obviously, depending on the clients that you're working on, if it is an FMCG brand, if it is a retail kind of brand, then it enables you to actually be in the spaces where you can actually connect with the consumer. So you could be at the point of purchase where the consumer will consider the brand. It can help you be very, very creative. It's one of those platforms I absolutely love because the creativity you can do on a billboard, and the impact it actually has on the consumer, it's forever lasting. It stays in your mind.
I love that you touched on creativity because it's such a huge piece of what out of home delivers for brands. Often brands have, their media metrics and they need to tick all the boxes. And then at some point along the journey, somebody's like, we need innovation. Let's do out of home, or let's make out of home the key or the core part of this campaign from an innovation perspective. Or, we've seen a lot of brands, especially recently, really using specific creative developed only for out of home. And we've seen the amazing impact that that's had. We've seen brands like Melon Mobile, Pineapple, Naked Insurance, who've really come to market almost aggressively, but in the most wonderfully creative way to design their artwork and their messaging custom fit and bespoke for out of home. And we've seen the impact that that's having around the link that has to social and how that's being picked up and shared. And, when we had Nicole Shub from Pineapple, the CMO, join us on the podcast, she mentioned that they went viral on LinkedIn. Like they never saw that happening, but that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the billboards that were used in such a beautifully creative way and all the different messaging that they had put together. So I love that you've touched on the creative piece of it too.
Also, for me, out of home is one of those awesome mediums that works very well with other mediums. Like it works amazingly with radio. with amplifying digital and social. I mean, it works so well with almost everything. I think very, very key. It's one of those sort of mediums that which I want to say it's important at the top of the funnel, if you know what I mean. It's one of those mediums that really need to be considered should the clients have budgets for it.
Rob, I love what you and Livia are speaking about now, about the real power of out of home and the impact that it delivers to clients and brands and what the benefits are of it. And I was recently reading an article by Tom Goddard, and it was about out of home's strongest second act. There were such important pieces and insights that were in this article, and the one was really about how out of home drives, the most increased trust and drives trust within the market. And it really also spoke about the fact that out of home globally has been holding its own when it comes to its percentage of the media mix, right? It stayed at the 5% percentage of ad spend. So out of home is really, as he positioned it, and it's something I've really loved the way that it was put, is that out of home's really in its strongest second act, and it's really got its place to shine right now in the media mix. And I think there's such powerful parts of that article that just kind of solidified and anchored for me that out of home really is in its strongest second act, and it really is starting to prove its place in that media mix because of so many benefits that's across the medium as a whole.
Yes, I totally agree. It's one of those mediums that make innovation so easy. To try and innovate across digital platforms or TV or other mediums, it's a little bit more difficult. But out of home, I mean, the creativity is limitless.
I love that you've raised creativity, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's expensive to be innovative and out of home. It's expensive to do, like 3D anamorphic from a production point of view, or 3D mapping projection. But I wanted to raise one of the powers of out of home, right, is that it's one to many, right? So when you're investing in the innovation, whether it is creativity on the billboard, whether it is from a creative deep screen 3D artwork point of view, you are investing in something that's a really powerful medium that does deliver in credibility and brand trust. But it's not a one-to-one in innovation that you're investing in. It's a one-to-many. That's the power of the medium, right? And I wanted to also raise is that there's ways to innovate. If you go back and listen to the episode recently that we released in January with Dexter from Way Out, talking specifically about idea to, installation to for innovation, you can also hear his budget ranges for different types of innovation, right? It doesn't always need to be exceptionally expensive and cost a couple of million. It can also be done in slight ways where you can add little touches or LEDs or something like that you can just bring it to life and not such a huge costly point of view. But I think, innovation's a big piece as to why out of home is so powerful. And I think the biggest piece is how it's now playing in the space of engaging with its consumers and engaging with its audience. So I think out of home's also placing itself really, really well in that need or that ask or that desire from a consumer point of view, and then also from being this powerful one-to-many medium.
From Sunrise and Josie to lights that never sleep, we are Network X outdoor media specialists.
With over 1,000 media platforms across Gauteng, we don't just place ads.
We capture audiences right where life happens.
From premium digital displays to iconic city views,
we turn attention into impact every single day.
So join the experience. Network X out of home.
I'm listening to the conversation we're having around, creativity, the benefits of out of home. Rob, I love how you've brought the link and how out of home works so well with other channels. From a strategic perspective, out of home and radio work very well together. We've seen out of home driving search and onto social very well. And it kind of made me think, from your position again, being this right hand to clients and really having the ear of the clients, I wanted to find out, what have you heard from clients around perhaps the reason they might not want to invest in out of home, or from your experience, what are you looking for the channel to perhaps change? You've been very clear on your advocacy for the platform, but I think there's always room for improvement around, and Kirsten and I, we're very familiar with this. A lot of the episodes on the podcast center around discussing some of the measurement challenges, the fragmentation in the market. I think we're all aware of how amazing the platform is, but we're also aware there's always room for growth and improvement. And I think the critical part is, what are the clients feeling about out of home as to the reasons they don't want to go into out of home? I think it's important for us to know what those reasons are so we can see what information can we provide that maybe could counteract that opinion, or perhaps, there is fragmentation in the market. The reality is there are about 350 media owners. There's about 16,000 roadside billboards. These are the realities of the market. But yeah, I would love to just get your opinion on what you're looking for, maybe that's lacking in the market, or what the biggest challenges are, or what you've heard clients speak around a hesitation in entering out of home.
Well, I think from an out-of-home point of view, some of the hesitation, I think you just touched on very briefly, and that is the measurability. I think that is very important. I think that, when you're doing a digital campaign or a TV campaign, it's measurable. It's there. You do a post campaign, the numbers you set out is what you set out. Out of home, especially when you look at Africa, yes, it's measured on traffic count, but how reliable is traffic count? From a South Africa point of view, I think we have from a South Africa point of view, we've sort of like enhanced the measurability from an out-of-home point of view. But when you look at Africa, a lot of that tech, if you want to call it that, isn't there. So yes, there is hesitation because clients are all about delivery, right? It's all about, this is what I can get. It's all about return on investment. It's like, I invest I expect so much back. And where the hesitation is, because if you can't show them that and show them that in an absolute sort of form, they're very hesitant, because they're responsible to their shareholders and they're responsible to their, to their seniors. So, so in that respect, I think we still got quite a bit of work to do around that. Especially from an Africa point of view.
I also wanted to circle back on something that you mentioned, Rob, around ROI. And it reminded me of the episode that we have with Andrew Brunton, who is the head of EMEA for Billups. And he mentioned something so interesting around the time that agencies put and dedicate towards reporting for campaigns. And it really struck me and actually stayed with me in that there's so much time put into the planning of a campaign and not as much time proportionally into the reporting. And why I think it's important is that if the client is looking and searching for ROI, specifically when it comes to out of home, we understand that there are some measurement challenges around understanding, you could show your planned measurement, but what can you show that you actually reached? Some of those challenges come into play, that you actually need to set up front what type of reporting are you going to be looked for? What are the KPIs for the campaign when it comes to out of home specifically? And how can the campaign be planned around that way, instead of rather getting to the end of the campaign, you've got a few proof of lighting pictures and maybe you've got some measurement stats you can throw in depending what formats and with whom you've booked. I think a lot more focus needs to be put on the actual reporting and planning on how you're going to report on the ROI at the end, but do that at the beginning. Understand how will that thread run through from the start. So I think that the way that agencies are shaping the reporting also needs to change when it comes to out of home. I think there's a huge missed opportunity around, a campaign that is shareable on social, that's gone viral on LinkedIn in some cases. How are you going to include that in the reporting, not just the standard out-of-home reporting, but how did the other channels perform in relation to out-of-home, and set the campaign up from the beginning, looking for those metrics or those clues along the way of how the out-of-home campaign performed effectively. So as I mentioned, it stayed with me around how the reporting piece seems to be a small piece at the end that is not as amplified, but when the client's looking for ROI for repeat business and out of home and for repeat bookings for the brand, they're going to look to that piece of ROI that hopefully it's strong enough to justify them repeat booking.
As we head towards our close, it's been such an exciting conversation with you, Rob, and I feel like there's so much that I can pick your brain with and so many questions I could ask you, but I do think there's quite a critical one for our listeners and our viewers. And the question's really around media owner engagement with senior media agency personnel and staff. They really struggle to get that meaningful, a lot of the time media owners struggle to get that meaningful engagement and time with senior agency individuals. And I wanted to ask you, what are the key items that you would advise media owners that are listening or viewing this episode about how they can really look to earn time, trust, and influence in those strategic conversations with senior agency personnel such as yourself, and if you've got any advice for them?
Sure. Well, from my perspective, it's when you're setting up an appointment to come and see, whether it's your client director or your strategist or whatever, don't lead with inventory. Rather lead with business challenges. Get to know the business, get to know the business that you're coming to talk about. Don't just give us your sales pitch. Let us know how you can partner with us, how you can help shape the brand, how you can help strategically answer the business challenges that the brand has. I think that is what's lacking. It's also understanding what the client challenges are, and addressing those. Sit with your strategist, sit with your client director, and try and understand the business as well as they know it, because that is what we do with our clients. We are not just their media partner; we are an extension of their marketing department. We need to understand the brand as well as they do, to be able to address the challenges out there. And that's what clients are looking for, and that is what we are looking for as agency professionals.
I love that you started with don't start with your inventory. I think, we've referenced this before. It's almost like going on a first date and not speaking about yourself first, right? Let the other person speak about themselves, or speak about the other person, not just about how wonderful you are. So I love that. And I think it's a great practical tip. Also, from 25 years in the industry, I think it's great to kind of get your perspective on how media owners can level up and can actually start to have successful relationships with agencies that are mutually beneficial and not just transactional. So I love that tip that you've left us with.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been awesome to sit down with you. And yeah, I'm glad that I figured out that you and your team were behind the Emirates growing billboard. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us today to go beyond the billboard. Subscribe to our podcast to ensure you don't miss out on our exciting content.
Join us again to go beyond the billboard.
1, 2